Escrow scenario number 5, arbitration. This is the scenario where either the buyer or seller find the agreement going awry for whatever reason and request arbitration on the smart contract. In response to the first party's arbitration request, the other party will also request arbitration. The smart contract is coded to lock the funds inside of it. The funds will be locked inside of the smart contract upon both parties raising arbitration flags. At that point, both parties will have to go to court, hash it out, and a judge will issue a final verdict deciding on how much money sitting in escrow goes to which party. Probably will deduct legal fees, etc. But let's take a quick look at the scenario. Let's start by creating an escrow agreement by entering the app, heading over to the contracts library, choosing the contract we want to use, customizing it to our needs, clicking create contract, providing a digital signature. And once the contract creation request has been mined, we will now have a contract we can use to execute a real estate transaction. Let's take care of all of the Algorand prerequisites. Let's send the deposit. The deposit is an incentive that prevents people from creating contracts that are useless or have no value attached to them. Let's now opt in the contract to hold the medium of exchange, i.e. in this scenario, USDCA. After we do that, we'll be able to send the first escrow payment. This is the case for arbitration, so we'll be telling the story of a buyer who is in the right, does everything correct on their side, but the seller side is an absolute lunatic. They are going to choose to not move out of the house midway through the agreement and also try to get some of the money sitting in escrow, despite the fact that they have not upheld their side of the bargain. So we've sent the first escrow payment. We're going to wait for the moving date to elapse. The seller should have been moved out by this date, but for some reason, they've changed their mind. They want to stay there. When the buyer notices this, they will request arbitration. Along the way, the buyer can leave notes on chain to cover their tracks and prepare for arbitration. This can be used in the court of law, a tamper-proof record of what happened. Hopefully they're using the app to do all of their correspondence with the sell side, upload all of the documents, or at least a copy of them. And the moving date is approaching. The buyer is visiting the property and noticing that the seller is not moving things along at the appropriate pace, not moving out. And the buyer is going to request arbitration once they notice or confirm in their mind that the seller is not going to be upholding their side of the bargain. In response, the seller is going to also raise arbitration, at which point the money will be locked inside of the smart contract. Once the money is locked in the smart contract, both parties will have to go before a judge who will hear both sides and make a final verdict on how the money sitting in escrow should be divvied up. Because the buyer is in the right, we will send or reassign all of the funds inside of the smart contract to the buyer. The red outline around the flags widget indicates that the contract is in a state of arbitration. This is the address of the smart contract. So what we can do is copy this, and I'm simulating this scenario on my own computer. So let's paste in the address of the smart contract and revoke the $100,000 sitting in it. You can see the $100,000 inside of the smart contract. And now you don't. So if you come back over to the UI, we see the funds have been cleared and sent back to the buyer. That is the case for arbitration, or the case of arbitration.